Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brian Allen. I'm a freelance artist, and I recently posted a YouTube video showing my experience with the iPad Pro 10.5. I had it for a couple weeks, and I ended up taking it back. As I explained in the video, there were a couple big issues I had with it, and I thought it just wasn't right for me. Well, since I posted that video, I had a ton of artists that I admire, you know, tell me to give it another shot um, for two reasons. One, they said that the iPad Pro 12.9, the bigger one, was a lot better. Uh, and the other thing, the most important thing that I'm going to be exploring today is that Clip Studio Paint, also known as Manga Studio 5, my favorite drawing program, came out for the iPad Pro just a couple weeks after I returned the old one. So I went back to Best Buy, and which I think they probably hate me at Best Buy at this point, but I got the iPad Pro 12.9. Um, I want to say right off the bat, there is a big difference in just that 3 extra inches. Um, do with that what you will. But there is just so much more real estate to draw on, and I think that was part of the problem I had with the 10.5 was that it just was a little bit too small. Uh, However, I'm going to talk about Clip Studio Paint in a second, but I'm still not convinced. I've been using this for about a week and a half. I'm still not convinced that this is the right piece of hardware for me. I believe I'm going to be leaning towards going with the Wacom Mobile Studio Pro. But I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. What I really wanted to talk about was Clip Studio Paint for the iPad Pro. If you're not aware, they came out with this recently, I think last month, and it is an exact duplicate of the desktop program. This isn't like Clip Studio Paint Lite. This isn't a dumbed down version of the program. It is the program. And that is amazing because all the other apps on the iPad Pro include, Procreate, um, what's the other one? There's PaintStorm. Uh, they are similar to their, I guess I should say Autodesk Sketchbook Pro. I think the desktop versions is identical. Um, but the Clip Studio Paint one is exact. You can do everything. It's got all the symmetrical rulers. It has all the brushes. It has all the filters, all the functions. It's awesome. And the most important thing, of course, is that drawing and inking in it, just like on the desktop version, is the best experience I've had so far. Um, that being said, I am still trying to get used to this thing, this Apple Pencil. I know so many artists love it. Some of my favorite artists, like Dan Mumford and that other guy, they love this thing. I, for some reason, cannot get used to it. It still feels like a chopstick mashing against glass. And I can go into. I don't want this to be a review about the iPad Pro in particular. I wanted to start inking in Clip Studio Paint and kind of answer some questions about the experience in that so far, and maybe give you my thoughts on how this is, how everything is going. So I had this piece of X-Men fan art that I'm working on, and I think just for today, I'm just going to turn off because we don't have a lot of time. I'm just going to turn off all the other guys, and we're just going to mess with Wolverine today. Um, so I've already talked about how great it is that the ink brushes and the pencil brushes feel exactly like they do on the desktop, minus what I think are the faults of this guy. The only thing that is really kind of holding up the potential of this program, I think, is the way that it integrates with your files on the iPad Pro. It's a little difficult to explain, and I don't want to bore you with that, but they're trying to introduce some kind of cloud interface, but the directions on how to use this cloud are incredibly unclear. Like, I have documents saved to this cloud, but I have no idea how to access them on my desktop. So, and unfortunately, unlike the other apps like Procreate that integrate directly with the iOS file system and the Dropbox system, which I use, it doesn't integrate very well with that. So the only way that I've been getting my files, like this one here, came from my desktop, um, is I actually use AirDrop on the Mac OS. So I find the file, I click it, I AirDrop it to my iPad, and it immediately opens in Clip Studio Paint. So it's actually a really fast way to transfer the files. It's just, it's not very intuitive because that file now is a copy on my iPad, and when I want to save it, I'll have to do the same thing. I'll either have to AirDrop it to my desktop or save a copy in Dropbox or elsewhere. I would love the ability to just open up my Dropbox folder, work on the file, hit save, and then be able to open that file on my desktop. So hopefully they're working on that. But anyway, I better start drawing before I lose you guys. But let me just show you in detail. And I want to apologize. I found it really difficult to get my camera to pick up the details of the iPad well, because it's like the screen is incredibly bright. So my camera can't pick it up very well. But these are inks that I drew on the iPad last night using the mapping pen that comes with the program. Let's see here. I'll try to zoom in as much as possible. The other thing I want to say is this program handles huge files like a champ. I mean, this file right here is 600 dpi at 20 by 20 inches. So I don't know what the pixel dimensions of that are, but it's huge. And it barely slows down. It saves in just a matter of seconds. I can zoom in and out very quickly. That is very cool. I'm really happy with that. Alright, so let me get started. If anyone has any questions about the iPad Pro, please just let me know. I see some already. Yeah, so people are already asking about the subscription. Definitely going to be getting to that in just a second. Because that's very important, I wanted to kind of draw with the program a little bit first, so just a sec. Hey Steve, how you doing? Alright, cool, so let's get started. Yeah, let's talk about the subscription model. If you go and look on Clip Studio Paint's social media when they released the news about this program, unfortunately for them, pretty much every single comment is people complaining about the subscription model, and I think that they are certainly within their rights to complain. The subscription model they're introducing is $8.99 a month. From now until June, I think, the program is free. So I'm using the free version. I want to say, that I love Clip Studio Paint, and I fully support paying for my software. I purchased both Clip Studio Paint EX and Manga Studio 5 twice actually for my desktop. So I have nothing against paying for software that I use every day professionally. However, I think that the price is very steep. I'm really hoping that they take all the feedback that they've been getting, or negative feedback, I should say, and I think a more reasonable subscription price would be like $4 a month. I believe that's the way Sketchbook Pro works. They have, their model is a little complicated because you can even use the program for free, I believe, but then they do have a subscription program that gets you some other features. I don't know what they are, but that's only $4 a month, and I really think that is the direction they should take. Maybe release the program for free on the iPad, but have maybe a subscription model for their cloud, and maybe that includes, I don't know, new materials or goodies or new brushes. It lets you save your files. But $9 a month comes out to over $100 a year, and for anybody who's not using this professionally, they're just gonna go the other way. I mean, there's Sketchbook Pro, there's Procreate. There's a lot of alternatives out there, and I think that this program is better than those. But it's going to be hard to convince somebody who's not doing this professionally to pony up that kind of cash when the differences aren't even immediately clear, if that makes sense. Right, and so there's some good comments here. Yeah, I mean, their idea of having a subscription model, maybe that's the wrong choice to begin with. I would pay, if this app were $20, which is kind of expensive for an app, I would happily pay that. Just a one-time fee of $20. I think it's more than worth it. The desktop app is only, I think it's only like $50, and it's often on sale. I mean, and that's a crazy, crazy deal, in my opinion, because it's such fantastic software. Um, but I don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that they kind of rolled that out to get a feeling for how people respond to it, and it's pretty clear that they're not responding positively. So hopefully there's a little flexibility. I don't know. If there isn't, I think they need to drastically improve their cloud. So make it. Get out of here. That's funny. I gotta turn off those messages. What was I saying? So they gotta throw in some extra perks, I think, to give you a real reason to do it, especially since the desktop software would be cheaper then. I've been using Clip Studio Paint for many years now, and I just paid for it once. So I don't know. Now like most professionals, I got sucked into Adobe, their subscription plan. So I'm not against paying subscription plans if that's what I have to do. It's just that with Adobe, I pay $10 a month to use Photoshop, and it's a necessity. Like, it's really hard to be a graphic designer and not have Photoshop. Even if you don't use it every day, you're gonna come across a time when you get a file that someone else sends you that you got open in Photoshop. So I don't know. But anyway, well, I do want to go back to some positives. Like, it's hard to show in this video, but just the feeling of these ink brushes is just so natural and awesome. I just love it. I tried inking in Procreate, and I just could not figure it out. I could not get the hang of it. Oops. Let's see. Sorry guys, I'm trying to fix my camera. Let's see if I do it at a flat angle. The problem with filming this thing, as I was saying, is that it's basically like trying to film a light bulb. This thing is so bright, and I've got the brightness turned down to like 10%. Here's what I can do. Let me turn up this layer a bit. So I want you to see my pencils too. Anyway, sorry about that. I might need to invest in a higher quality camera at some point. I'm always rooting for Manga Studio or Clip Studio Paint because I really think that they have the best Photoshop alternative out there. Um, I just hope they get this one right. My problem with Procreate, and I know there's so many artists out there just who love it and do amazing things with it. The problem is it just, to me, isn't enough uh, to handle a lot of the things I want to do. Um, there's no text layout options really. There's no. I think they just introduced masking. I don't know. I should probably give it a shot again. Hey, Scott Payne. Yeah, I've been messing around with Sketchbook Pro a lot lately, and I still feel like this program draws better, but there's certainly some things that it does that are very cool. And what I love about Sketchbook Pro and Clip Studio Paint that's missing in Procreate is the symmetry rulers. I find that when I'm like sketching out ideas, I love having a symmetry ruler to duplicate what I'm doing on the left and right. It just saves so much time, and that's why you work digitally, because you're trying to save time and focus more on the idea and less on the craft. So if they ever introduce those in Procreate, that would be a big deal. But no program that I've come across handles symmetry rulers quite as well as Clip Studio Paint here. Because one of the great things that I love about this is that you can snap the ruler to your layer and move it around, so you can have all kinds of different symmetry rulers doing different things and activate them one by one. It's cool. Shoot, I hope that you can even see what I'm doing. Let's see if I can adjust my camera a second. Okay. Hey, I'm sorry, Kina? I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Um, you mentioned the infinite canvas. I'm not sure. I actually don't know what that is. What program is that in? Is that here? In Clip Studio Paint? So some of the things, let me go into real quick. Some of the things that I'm not really enjoying about the iPad just just how it's almost a computer but not quite. Um, that gives it some advantages for sure, because that makes it lighter and faster, and the battery life is insane. I mean, it's insanely good. It just lasts forever. Uh, like that stroke right there that I just did for Wolverine's cowl. Um, I would have found that to be so difficult to make in any of the other programs, but this one it just happens the way that I would have wanted, so it's very satisfying. Um, but again, I still feel like I have a Wacom 24 HD tablet, and I can get much better lines on that than I can here. And I don't know it's probably just because I'm so used to that tool. Maybe if I really use this a lot, I would learn, learn the tricks of it. I don't know. Oh, I do want to say one thing about the setup here for Clip Studio Paint. When I got this, for some reason, the pen pressure settings were crazy. They were like, they started here and ended here, and there was a big loop. I didn't know if that came there by default, or if somehow I had messed that up. So I just changed the pressure curve back to just a straight line, diagonal line, and that feels a lot better for me, a lot more accurate. Before, it seemed like I had to press really hard to make anything happen. So I wasn't sure what was going on there. Yeah, so about the iPad Pro, because it's not a full computer, I'm finding myself always having to kind of like hack it, like try to find ways to do things that should come pretty easy. Just trying to get my files on it, trying to really answer emails on this thing. I found to be pretty impossible because of I use Gmail for work, and there's a lot of different plugins that we use, which none of them work in the Gmail app here. So it's just kind of like Gmail Lite, really, and it just doesn't replace a laptop. Which I guess it's not supposed to replace a laptop, but that has been sort of their marketing campaign, and I don't agree. So I've been leaning towards the Wacom Mobile Studio Pro. It's just that it's so expensive. I mean, it's going to cost me $2,000, where with the pencil, this thing cost me $1,000. But I don't know. Hey, I'm sorry, I missed a bunch of questions. And anybody who's just joining, I'm using Clip Studio Paint for the first time on the iPad Pro 12.9. And to sum it up, I really like the program. The shortfall is their subscription model, and also just trying to get used to the iPad Pro's pencil versus the Wacom. All right, let me see if I can answer some questions here. Yeah, there's a comment here about using the iPad Pro to create tattoo work. I've seen some amazing tattoo artists doing really cool stuff with the iPad Pro, and for that application, it seems to make total sense because you're in a studio where maybe you don't have you don't have a desk area set up where you're going to have room for a giant Wacom Cintiq tablet. So it totally makes sense to have like this little device that you can just kind of carry around really quick. You don't have to worry about the battery life because it will last all day. And there's really you don't have to have a keyboard, though a keyboard would help. I'm not using one right now, but I can tell that if I had one, it would make this a lot faster. Just using the keyboard shortcuts and stuff. But so if someone were, if money was no object and they were asking me, hey, which one should I get, the Mobile Studio Pro or the iPad Pro, I would say the Wacom hands down. But money is real, and it's a lot of money. And the Wacom has huge drawbacks of its own too. So the main one probably on your battery life. I've heard that you might get 4 hours out of it because it's running a lot more. I mean, it's a whole computer. So but I still think the pressure just drawing on the wave is just unsurpassed still. It's my opinion. Hey, thanks for the compliment, Alvin. Hey, Chase, what's up, man? Hey, I'm sorry, I was having a momentary problem with my mic. Is that all better? Hey, Kenny, what's going on? Great to see you here, man. I mean, I know you're a huge supporter of the iPad, and you've done some amazing stuff. Um, but yeah, like you say, if you're already paying a subscription fee for Adobe, and then all of a sudden you got to pay a subscription fee for Clip Studio Paint, it just adds up so quick. And you know, like all you guys, if I think a lot of you are freelancers who are listening to this, and it's like, you know, you have a subscription fee for Dropbox. I've got one for Gmail apps for work. I've got one for something that I use for, you know, like MailChimp. It's a MailChimp alternative. Like I've got all these little monthly things for $5 here, $10 here, and it adds up. And they, I love Smith Micro, but they gotta be careful. I hope that they reevaluate that pricing because I do think it's off. And what I would like to see too, I think what they need to do if they are going to do the subscription model is they ought to make it sort of like the way Adobe does, where if you subscribe, it gives you the whole suite of Smith Micro products. So that means if you are paying $10 a month, that means you get Clip Studio Paint, you know, as many computers as you want. And it also needs to like sync all your preferences. That would be a big help. I don't know. I'm always a big fan of theirs, and I'm always rooting for them, but they've made it a little tricky this time. Oh, hey, and I apologize about the mic too. I thought I had fixed that issue, but apparently not. I'm gonna have to get a new mic. Probably a new camera too. I mean, this camera isn't the worst. It's just that obviously for something like this, um, because the iPad is so bright, it's just really washing out everything I'm drawing. But hopefully you guys can see it enough to get the idea. If anyone listening has a suggestion on a good camera to use for streaming, please let me know. I was looking at some of the GoPro cameras, but they, you know, it starts to get expensive. It's like maybe 250, $350, and it's hard to justify spending that on something like this. Hey Gerald, what's going on, man? Yeah, yeah. So Gerald's comment is basically that he despises the way the Apple Pen feels, and I think it's just that him and I have been using Wacom for so long that I'm used to I'm just used to something about the way it works. It feels like just a piece of plastic that I'm jamming on glass. It just feels weird. And the other problem I just really can't get over is this nub, this tip. Instead of being like a really fine point like the Wacom stylus, it's actually pretty thick. So I feel like it's a lot harder to really put the mark exactly where I want it to go. But again, you know, I'm in the minority because there are tons of artists who are just loving this thing, and That's why I gave it a second chance, but I'm just still not understanding. So it probably just has a lot to do with the style of your drawing method, I would think. But it's definitely, this is the best Wacom alternative I've ever used by far. I've tried the Surface Pro, and again, Surface Pro has some fans, and it does some great things, but I I still think the pen technology is lacking compared to Wacom, and now compared to this. I also think it kind of stinks that this pen is $100, um, because I'm probably gonna lose it, and I think I've already lost the cap here. I might know where it is. I better know where it is because I think I'm taking this thing back. Yeah. So SC part. So you're saying you used Wacom for 10 years and now you prefer the Apple Pencil? Yeah. I mean, you're not alone. There's so many people. Um, it's just I wonder if I could get used to it if I really sat down and gave it a lot of time. But I think that's part of the reason that I want to go with the Mobile Studio Pro. I think is that, like, I don't feel like I really have time to learn a new tool or to learn a new program. I kind of like the idea that all the buttons are going to do the same thing whether I'm on my Mac or on that Mobile Studio Pro. But you're talking about the N-Trig stylus for the Surface Pro, so you do not like that. I couldn't get a feel for it either. I wonder if they're close though. I mean, like, each Wacom better watch out because I think each year they just they figure out some of the problems and make these things better and better. Now, what someone made a comment here. I think I lost it. Let's see. Oh yeah, that basically the Wacom one obviously is way less portable, and yeah, there's no doubt. Uh, that's what I love about this, the iPad Pro, is just like it's very light and easy to just sit on the couch with and have it in your lap. Um, I don't know how the Mobile Studio Pro is going to be in regards to that. So Shane asked me, if you're drawing an image in Manga Studio at 17 inches, 300 DPI, do you think it will still look great printed at 4 feet? So I can tell you from experience that yeah, it'll look fine. I just did something uh, for a restaurant. Um, it was for Chick-fil-A, and it was printed on the sides of two shipping containers. So these things were like 80 feet long and 10 feet high. And I did the whole thing in Manga Studio, and I did it at, I think I did it at like, there's a there's some kind of formula. Like, I think you do it at 10th scale at 150 DPI or something like that, and it printed fine. Um, what you want to do, just as a rule, just never make sure you never go below 300 DPI, and also make sure that you're like working at least 15 inches. Or you said 17 inches, so you'll be good. And if you're really worried about it, you can use vector layers as well. And they're not going to export as vectors. However, that way you can be sure that if you're moving things around in the program, that everything still stays really crisp. Let me turn on the other guys here. All right. All right, let me see. Oh, hey, thanks for recommending the camera. I'm definitely gonna check that out. Hey, here's a good question. Do I find the iPad version of Clip Studio as good as the desktop one concerning the drawing tool behavior? Yeah, I think that the iPad Pro Clip Studio Paint is like a 100% copy of the desktop version. Um, I, me personally, um, I am much more comfortable and accurate when I'm drawing on my desktop computer with the Wacom tablet. However, it's possible that what I'm seeing is just that I'm just so used to Wacom, you know. Um, I mean, already just sort of in the process of making this video, I'm just getting a little more comfortable with the strokes. So I don't know. I wish maybe if I don't know if this is even an option, but it would be cool if other people started releasing their own styluses for the iPad Pro. Um, Maybe they can improve upon this. I would love to use something like the Wacom stylus that has that click. Like it's a very subtle. You don't even hear or feel the click, but it's there. There's just a little bit of give, so you don't feel like you're pounding against such a hard surface, which I think is the problem I'm having. Because when you're drawing on paper with pencils, this is of course, a pencil has a really hard tip, but you're drawing on a sketch pad, which has a little bit of bounce to it. You're drawing, and it also has a tooth to the paper, so there's a little bit of a drag. I I put on a screen protector, like a matte screen protector, that really helped simulate that feeling. Because without a screen protector, this thing is like super smooth glass, and it's so hard to use. So I would recommend if you have an iPad Pro or you're getting one, definitely get a screen protector. Um, and I would recommend one that says it's a matte finish instead of a glossy finish, so it kind of has a bit more of a bit of tooth on it, if that makes sense. Uh, I want to answer a question about the Surface Pro 2. Let's see. Yeah, you're talking about the pricing of the Surface Pro 2. So a couple times I looked at that as an alternative, but they have so many different models, and since the keyboard doesn't come with it, by the time you get the model that's good enough to be a laptop replacement, and then you add a keyboard and all that stuff, you're already looking at over 1,500 bucks. And every time I get to that number, then I start thinking, well, geez, man, if I'm gonna spend 1,500 bucks, then why not just get, the Big Daddy, the top of the line Wacom Mobile Studio Pro. So there's a price difference there too. All right, so I'm gonna be wrapping this up soon. Let me see if you guys have any other questions that I can get to, and then I'll kind of sum up my experience so far with this thing. So let me see. I think I missed a bunch of questions. Kenny, you're asking about when was the last big update to Clip Studio Paint? You say it's been years. It's funny you say that because they actually just came out with an update this month. It was just a few days ago, and they added a bunch of really cool things. They added some new brushes that are big improvements on the default ones that come with the program. Um, they also added, and let's see if I can bring it up. They added like a really cool custom palette that you can make, that you can put any operation or tool or keyboard shortcut or anything in there, so that like for example, flipping the canvas horizontally. That's something I do a lot, and I have a keyboard shortcut to do it. But if you're using a tablet and you don't want to really use your keyboard, you can make your own custom palettes now, and that I've found that to be really really cool. There were some other things that they did to it as well, but I'm afraid I can't remember. So they do bring out updates. Maybe they're hoping that a subscription model would allow them to do even more. I don't know. Thing is, I'm not always a fan of constant updates because I have a Adobe Photoshop subscription, and a lot of times when they update things, they break things at the same time, or they will like just for no reason just take away some filter that I used to use all the time, and there's some things that I still have to go back to the old program for. But also, more importantly, every time they add something new to Photoshop, it seems to just slow it down a tiny bit more. So I actually kind of like the idea that if the program works, don't mess with it too much. Just keep it, keep it secure, keep it running smoothly, and keep it light. All right, cool. Yeah, kind of. I did see that announcement that the newest update they made, they had to like fix really quick. I didn't experience any problems, but maybe. Um, but all right, cool. So let's see here. Trying to get to the questions I skipped. Sorry, I probably skipped a lot of questions this time because I'm not looking at a computer screen while I'm drawing this. But let me just sum up and try to get this closer. Ugh, sorry, the camera does not capture this very well. But this is the iPad Pro 12.9. I definitely recommend it over the iPad 10.5 because I think that extra size really helps. I think all that does to the cost is maybe add another $150. The hardware itself is fantastic. It's never crashed. Battery lasts forever. Never gets hot. It's nice and light. Clip Studio Paint for the iPad Pro. So far, I love it. The downsides are the subscription model, which we talked a lot about. I hope they figure out another way, or at least find maybe a different pricing point. The only other suggestion I would have is that I do love that this is a direct copy of the desktop program, but it does seem now that like some of these menus need to be, I don't know, just a little tweaking to get the user interface a little more tablet friendly. I know I don't, I might regret asking for that because sometimes when they do that, they simplify the program, and that's not what I want. But it's just sometimes there's a lot of things that are a little harder to push. Like for example, trying to like move a layer. Like I'm trying to just switch this layer up here. And it can be difficult. Not the end of the world. And then, as I said in the beginning of my video, they really need to find a way to integrate their file system with the iPad iOS file system. So, because I want to be able to save directly to Dropbox, I want to be able to open directly from Dropbox or my iCloud files. which I don't use the iCloud. I hate that. But the only way to really do it now is to use their cloud service, file management here, which I still have not figured out how to get, connect this cloud to my desktop. So the only way to save and open files directly is essentially exporting a copy of them. So you're sharing a copy, but it's not the actual program. I want to be able to work on this drawing, hit save, get up in my chair and go to my desktop, and then have that open, and from my Dropbox folder, it's just synced, and it's the same file. So anyway, I know the program just came out, so I'm sure they're working on that. And otherwise, I think the program is great. iPad Pro so far has been great, but I still think I'm probably leaning towards taking this back and getting the Mobile Studio Pro instead, because I don't like change. And let me see. Does anybody have any last comments or questions here before I go? Let's see. So, and I apologize for skipping a bunch of questions. If I did miss them, please feel free to ask, and I'll try to answer everybody later. But I appreciate everybody who... Oh, thank you. I appreciate everybody who has been watching and commenting. And have happy holidays. And that's it. Yeah, if you want... sorry, just a little plug here. If you're a fan of my art and you want to buy any stickers or prints, everything in my shop is 15% off right now. So just go to flylanddesigns.com. You can check that stuff out. And as always, I've got Clip Studio Paint brushes that I've made for sale. I have 2 volumes, and I'm going to be coming out with a 3rd volume early next year. I think it's going to be really cool. It's got a lot of textures and patterns and like special brushes that I've been using. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.